All right, what's up, guys? Gene Reed here, Reed Training Solutions, coming at you with episode 6 of the Science of Self-Development. So obviously we're switching things up a little bit again this week. So this is a video, filming this thing outside because why not? So we're going to do another recap of my latest week in Ironman training. All right, so this is week 4, and we're going to jump right into it. One of the things I do want to discuss in this week's episode is this concept of Zone 2 training. You've probably heard of this before, and if you haven't, I'll explain to you what it is. But it has to do with being in a certain heart rate zone, depending on who you are, for certain training modules, right? So we'll get into that. All right, so on Monday, June 3rd, again, that's my recovery day. That's going to stay pretty consistent throughout this training regimen. So what I did, I had off from work that day, so in the morning, I did 20 minutes in the sauna, went to the LA Fitness that I go to, 20 minutes in the sauna. I have a note here, the temperature was only around 160. Again, I usually like that to be around 170, 180, but you take what you can get. And honestly, because it was a recovery day, it was probably a little better that the temperature was a little bit lower. So I did 20 minutes in the sauna, then did a 10-minute swim, and really just worked on a lot of form stuff, right? Really just trying to dial in the swim stroke, and I feel really good with that right now. I then got back in the sauna for another 20 minutes. So that was the AM session. Then that night, I did my usual 25 pull-ups, 75 push-ups, 50 slant board squats, then went for a 4.25-mile walk. That took about an hour and 15 minutes. But overall, really good recovery day. That's not going to happen that often where I'm going to be able to do something in the morning and afternoon, but when I get an opportunity to do that, I take advantage of it. So on Tuesday, it's a good strength day. Tuesdays are probably going to be pretty consistently strength days. And when I can, I wear a weighted vest just to kind of add to the workout. So I did my knees over toes program. If you guys don't know who that is, I forget the guy's name, but if you Google knees over toes, he's got a whole training regimen out there. So I bought that a long time ago, and then I just reused that. So he's got 2 different versions of that. So I did the knees version of it, and then my workout was I threw on my weighted vest. It's about a 20-pound weighted vest. I set a clock for every 2 minutes, and every 2 minutes I did the following, right? I did 5 sets of 20 slant board squats. So basically, start a clock, you do 20 of the slant board squats, which is a lot, and then let's say that takes about 40 seconds. Well, then you get a minute and 20 seconds to rest, and you repeat that process. I have a note here. That was really hard. I remember now, my legs basically stopped working on that 4th and 5th set. It was terrible. But I'm doing that for a reason, right? I'm doing that to really build up the knees, right? The above, below, and beside, and that's what those slant board squats do a really good job at. So once I did that, I then moved into 5 sets of 15 push-ups, and then 5 sets of 3 pull-ups. And again, all those are really explosive reps. That all took about 30 minutes. I then did some glute ham developer holds. I like to do static holds with that, single leg static holds, and that was it. Then just did a cool down and a stretch. All in all, it took about an hour. So moving on to Wednesday, also something I'm doing is keeping track of my weight. So I'm pretty steady around 200 pounds. Like when I wake up in the morning, about 200. By the time I go to bed, usually about 205, somewhere around there. And this time around, I'm trying to keep my weight as close to that as I can. It's going to get really hard to do once I start getting into a lot more volume. But the last time I did the race, I think I was about 180 pounds, give or take, somewhere around there. So I like this weight that I'm at. I feel good. So if I can keep it around there, that's what I'm going to try to do. So on Wednesday, again, that's a total rest day. I have a note here. Legs were a little sore, probably from those slant board squats. But that's what I want, right? I want to have a little tension in the muscles the day after that, so I know I hit them, appropriately. All right, now we're going to get into talking about the Zone 2 training a little bit. So Thursday was just a 60-minute Zone 2 run. No big deal. I've been doing all my training runs and rides. I try to do it at like the hottest part of the day. So it's 5 o'clock, 5:30, sometime around then. So on this day, it was 85 and 80% humidity. It's hot and humid. Typically, when I go for these 60-minute runs, pretty easily I keep my heart rate about 135 to 145. That's about zone 2 for me. So when we talk about zone heart rates, there are 5 different zones, right? Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zone 1 is typically 100 to 115 or less, right? Zone 2, and it's going to be dependent upon you and what your max heart rate is, and you can figure this out online. Zone 2 for me is about 135 to 145, somewhere in that range, really 130 to 145. That is a very long, slow, steady effort. And what you're doing is you're training your heart to get more efficient and stronger at pumping blood and oxygen through your body. So, when I went out on this run, it was really hard for me to keep my heart rate under 155. I think it was because it was so hot and humid out. So what I had to do was slow down my running as much as I could. Well, I was already running 10:30, 10:45. It's about as slow as I can go before really altering my running cadence, and then it just becomes an issue. So I had to make a hard decision, and I had to walk. So I walked. And some of you might be rolling your eyes at that, and hey, you set out on a 60-minute run where you got to run for 60 minutes. What you have to consider is, if the goal of that run is to stay in zone 2, sometimes you're going to have to walk, especially if it's a hot and humid day. You're just going to. So what I did, when my heart rate got like to 160, which again, I really let it get too far. I should have just capped it at 150. As soon as my heart rate got above 150, you start walking. But I did. I let it ride for a little bit. So I would just walk until my heart rate got down to 120, and then I would start back again. So, not surprisingly, it turned out to be a really slow run. So in 60 minutes, I did 5.34 miles. Average pace was 11:14. But again, I look at this as a win. I really do. I had enough knowledge and wherewithal to kind of put my ego aside. This is a zone 2 run. Let's keep it in zone 2. And that's what's probably going to happen on race day. Now listen, there's a time and a place, like today's workout, which I'll talk about. Today's Sunday. It was an hour-and-a-half long bike and then a 30-minute run. That 30-minute run is a 30-minute run. My heart rate was in the 150s to low 160s. And if you're out there running a 5K, 10K half marathon, you're going to be in the 150s to 160s. So you need to train in those areas so you know what that feels like. But I don't think you should train that way all the time. This zone 2 training, where you're really just working on that endurance and being as efficient as possible, it's really, really important. So again, zone 2 training is like a huge topic, but if you've never heard of it, I think that what I just explained kind of gives it a rough, in the ballpark kind of general idea. Moving to the next day, Friday, another strength day. I kind of just had fun this day. I have a 150-pound sandbag that I use, and I just like to carry that around. I pick it up, I'll carry it up and down the driveway. I'll do sandbag cleans with it. I'll do static holds with it. I then have a kettlebell, 53-pounder. I'll do some overhead carries with that. And again, the whole point of that day is just move some decent weight around and be strong, right? And just kind of have fun with it. There's no rhyme or reason. Everything's so structured in the Ironman program that when I can take those days, like a strength day, and just kind of be loose with it, I really value those days, and I just have fun with it. Saturday, 50-minute swim. My swim's really feeling good right now. So I did 1.5 miles, so it was 2,450-ish yards at about 2:04 so when we talk about pacing and swimming, it goes by however long it takes you to do 100 meters. So I did 2:04 per 100 meters. So in running, we do minute per mile. That's just how it is in swimming. 2:04 is what my pace was. Now I know that that's what my average swim was about when I was like peak last time. So I feel really good right now. Pretty early in the program. Swim feels great. I swam 1.5 miles. My average heart rate was 115 beats a minute, which is really low. So what that means is I'm very efficient right now in the water, not exerting a lot of energy and covering good distance while, really not exhausting myself. What I do know is if I put a wetsuit on, so again, these swims are just at LA Fitness. If I go to open water with a wetsuit, my time usually drops down like 145, 150 for longer distances. And that's simply because the wetsuit allows you to stay a little more buoyant. It keeps your legs afloat and you really glide through the water a lot more efficiently and you don't have to kick as much. Only downside to Saturday was there was no sauna. So they're doing some maintenance on the sauna, but that's all good. Sunday, which is today, Sunday Fun Day. This was my first what's called a brick workout. So if you ever hear anybody say a brick workout, what they're referring to is when you are training for a triathlon and you do a bike and then you do a run right after it. So again, you're prepping your body to get used to that sensation of, all right, I just had a pretty good cycling, workout, and now I got to go run, just like you will on race day. So for the hour and a half bike, so I did an hour and 32 minutes, covered 26.48 miles, and did it at 17.2 miles an hour. For me, that's pretty good. 17.2 average pace, considering I don't stop my watch at any point in time during these rides. Like if I come up on an intersection and I got to wait at a red light for a little bit, or I got to slow down because of traffic or whatever. So I'm very happy with that. A lot of wind today, and I have finally found a nice route around where I live to where I have some nice open flat roads where I'm going to experience like a lot of wind. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to replicate race day as much as I can, because I know in Ironman Maryland it's very open, very flat, but a lot of wind. And there's a big difference between riding with rolling hills where you can really switch up through a lot of different gears. You can maybe coast on the way down. You're using different muscle groups when you're going up the hills. When you have a course that's 112 miles and it's all flat, you're using 2 to 3 gears and you're using the same muscles nonstop, right? And you're stuck in that arrow position. You might be able to mix it up a little bit, but I want to start training those muscles and all those mechanistic, things now. So there's no shock or anything on race day. So I hopped off the bike, took maybe 10 minutes, had a couple graham crackers, got some water in me, did a 30-minute run, and that was just under a 5K. So I was 3.08 miles at a 9:45 per minute mile pace. Felt great. For my first brick workout in a very long time, the run felt really good. And the new pair of shoes I got, the Hoka's, the Clifton 9s, I give them my stamp of approval. They're definitely going to be my go-to shoe. I'm probably actually just going to get another pair of them now so that 3 weeks before race day I can break them in a little bit, and then I got a fresh new pair ready to go for that day. Now going back to the heart rate stuff, so this run, the 30-minute run, I mean my heart rate was in the mid 150s to a couple times it got up to 160. Again, not a fast pace, 9:45, but the goal of that run wasn't the zone 2, right? So I'm not going to do a lot of walking or anything during that. I'm just going to push through and get through those 30 minutes and train that system of the body, right? Overall, really good week of training. It really was. Body feels really good. Really taking recovery very seriously right now. One of the tools I've been using for recovery is within 30 minutes of getting done all of these workouts, I sit up against a wall and put my feet up at a 90-degree angle up against the wall. I don't know exactly what that does, but I do it for 15 minutes. I do it right after the workout, and then I do it before bed, and my legs have felt really, really fresh. And everything feels nice and loose and flexible. Really putting a lot of time into warm-ups, cool-downs, all the things everybody has said you're supposed to do, but I never really used to do that. So really good week of training. So that's it. Tomorrow's a recovery day. I'll keep everybody up to date as things are going, and that's all I got. So if you're listening to this, again, this is a video episode, so I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you.